This is the Pegasus Podcast, presented by Night Sports Now. UCF news, views, and a few hot takes. Now, here are your hosts, Bailey Go Knights Adams and Christian Charge On Simmons.
Welcome into an emergency edition of the Pegasus Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at BaileyJAdams22, at @ByCASimmons, at Night Sports Now, and at Pegasus Podcast. You can also email us at PegasusPodcastByKSN@gmail.com. Gus Malzahn is gone. We can get into kind of how the day has played out, but this is straight from ESPN's Pete Thamel. Sources, UCF head coach Gus Malzahn is resigning to become the new offensive coordinator at Florida State, sources told ESPN. His UCF tenure will end after 4 years at 28 and 24. So we kind of thought, this may be the way this ends up going. We weren't sure if the money would work out. We weren't sure how it would play out. There was still a possibility of it. In no situations that I think this would end up with him resigning and being the offensive coordinator at Florida State. So I'll bring you in to say something before I continue to ramble.
No, go ahead. No, as you can see, I am wearing garnet in honor of Gus Malzahn's new move to FSU. Very excited for him.
Did you just change shirts?
No, I've been wearing this all day,
okay.
Bailey.
All right, I wasn't sure.
Ross Dellinger just reported as well. UCF head coach Gus Malzahn has agreed to the new OC at Florida State. Second instance in 2 years of a power conference head coach leaving for a coordinator gig. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So a couple things here. First off the bat, in all my wildest dreams and realities of how this saga was going to end, never did I imagine it would be Gus leaving to be OC at Florida State. We were sitting. So guys, this has been, if you're on UCF Twitter at all, it was starting to leak. Like, this has been everyone's whole day, is something was going to happen. I think Brandon Hellig was the first to officially report that UCF was ready to make a change, and that listen, guys, go to the dungeon. It's great content. That a change was probably coming very soon here. UCF was ready to move on. Stephen Leonard then reported that a change was happening, and then a minute later, Pete Thamel announced that, was a change happening, and it was happening, and that Gus is leaving to be a coordinator. Look, number one takeaway here, even higher takeaway than the war is over, Gus Malzahn has moved on, is that he's leaving to be the OC at another job. So I'm going to double check this, but as far as what we know now, UCF does not owe him any kind of buyout. In fact, since he broke the contract, he may owe UCF money. We've been looking at the buyout. The whole fear this whole time has been, how will UCF make this financially work? UCF may be about to have a head coach opening and be flush with cash to fill it. Maybe the situation they're about to be in. So we can, I don't know even where to start. I mean, we can do a whole memoriam over time on the Gus Malzahn era and what it was. But the number one takeaway is he has given UCF a huge gift here by we were talking about what kind of buyout will he retire for. He's walking away for free. He actually might be paying UCF money as far as we know now. And that completely changes what UCF can do now. And they got to work, because signing day is on Wednesday. They got to find a coach quickly here. But this is a better resolution to this situation than I ever could have imagined.
Yeah, I said to you before we got on here that it might be the best thing he's done for UCF.
I think so.
There have been good moments, there have been some good things, but it's very clear that this was always the way, at least especially we've been clear on our podcast about this is the way we wanted it to go. UCF fans wanted him gone, but it was always like, how can they do this financially? Is it gonna mess them up? Next year, the year beyond that, how can they do this? Like, is it gonna work? And I almost wonder I think he obviously saw the writing on the wall. I think he probably has had some conversations with, Terry and in UCF, and maybe they did kind of structure it this way to where he could say, all right, I'll resign. And he obviously has a landing spot with Mike Norvell, who, I guess you pointed out to me, he discovered back when Norvell was coaching with him at Tulsa. But yeah, for this to happen and for presumably him owing UCF money, even if they maybe worked out a deal on that, the main point being UCF not owing him all of that buyout.
Yes.
So it's wonderful. It is a Christmas gift come early.
Yes.
I still can't believe it.
I mean, I seriously, guys, because the whole thing was, and we were talking about this all day, as it was starting to get out there that UCF was ready to make a change. And that has, I feel like we can say now since in the past that we've been that's been sort of out there to a degree for a couple weeks now.
I think so.
That UCF was probably getting close to being like, hey, this is not working. And when they lost to Utah last night, us and everyone else were like, okay, they're going to have to do it. And the big question was just rev share is starting next year. UCF has to put aside $20 million to share with their athletes beyond just football. And I was even torn as we talked about it because it was so obvious and clear as day that a change had to happen. Everything was trending in the wrong direction, from on-field production to recruiting to fan interest. You had to make a change. There was no way around the fact that by making that change, UCF was going to put themselves in a very tight spot financially, whether Gus agreed to a reduced buyout or not. And that's what I had assumed that Mohajir had been weighing these last couple of weeks, was how do you balance? Like, I don't think at any point Mohajir didn't think a change was necessary. I think UCF's administration from the president on down was ready to move on. It was just, how can you make that work financially and not put yourself in a situation where you can't afford a legitimate head coach to replace him. You can't afford to keep your recruiting class in place or portal in place. And this solved all of that. I mean, this is the Christmas present of all Christmas presents, like you said, for it to just be that UCF gets a clean slate here. They get a clean financial slate. They don't have to worry about handing money off to Gus. Again, I'm like, that hasn't been 100% confirmed yet, but I don't understand how UCF could ever owe him money since he's leaving for another job.
With it being worded as him resigning or stepping down.
Yes.
I don't think there's any way.
And Tatum Bethune just tweeted, "Oh no," with a facepalm emoji. So
on the flip side of that, Javon Boggs, highly rated recruit, just tweeted, "Wow." ...
And let me just say another thing really quickly. Already, I have seen 2 USF fans try to spin this in poverty Big 12. Their coaches leave to become coordinators. I can't overstate how clear this is. UCF was going to get rid of Gus Malzahn.
Yeah.
That is what was going to happen. That no one listening to this podcast, that is a surprise to, but I'm just saying, don't get overly upset if some people try to spin it that way on Twitter. It's just not true, and it's whatever.
It's an escape route.
For Gus, I get this. I really do. And I think this makes more sense to me than anything for him, because what's been so clear these last few years is he's flip-flopped on play calling and I'm a CEO, or, and he used to say things. He'd say things in press conferences when he took back play calling as, "This is what got me here." And he was right about that. As Gus, we've talked about it, the ego, the control freak aspect, he could never give up. He just wanted to run an offense. That's what he wanted to do. And college football has changed so dramatically from when he became a head coach for the first time over 10 years ago. Now you have the portal, you have NIL, you have to recruit your roster as it stands. I mean, it really is not about running an offense anymore. That's not what being a head coach is. And I think for Gus, this is probably his dream come true. He gets to just go run an offense and focus on nothing else. That gets to be his job. I mean, this job, being the offensive coordinator at Florida State, funnily enough, will be more similar to being Auburn's head coach in 2010 than being a head coach of the football program right now. So I don't know why Florida State is doing this.
Yeah.
I don't know what about UCF's offenses these last few years make you think that that's a good choice, but they need to do something drastic, and he's a name, so it works out for everyone.
I mean, I don't know if it's not quite the same thing because Gus is more of a name, but this is like Mike Norvell hiring Gus Malzahn is Gus Malzahn hiring Ted Roof.
Yeah.
They're friends. They have a relationship, and he's like, yeah, he could do it. I mean, what else is there? What other merits has he shown? I don't know. That is crazy. Unless you think that him fully being tunnel vision on running an offense and play calling is gonna, but it doesn't make sense.
I'm trying to get behind the paywall to see USF stuff because I cannot imagine that they are. What did I say?
USF.
I'm so sorry. They're all the same. It doesn't matter. They're all programs we hate. So Brendan Sinone over at Knowles247 reported the first comment on his post is "See you in hell" from an FSU fan. Disgusting. WTF. Oh wow. Yeah. FSU fans are very, very angry.
This feels like a joke.
Yeah. This actually feels like we're in someone's UCF fan fiction of what's the craziest way we can come up with to get it. You FSU fans are so mad. Yeah. FSU fans are pretty angry. I would be if I were them too. They have no idea what hell they're in store for.
I can't wait to watch the Florida State game tonight. I don't know why. It's just like, I don't know. Because they're gonna lose to Florida. They're gonna finish the season 2-10, and what they have to look forward to is Gus Malzahn as their OC.
Here is one angle I didn't quite think about when we thought Gus would just either retire or be fired. FSU's about to target all of the top tier recruits in UCF's recruiting class, and honestly, whatever. That's a small term issue. It's for a long term solution. I seriously, I never imagined a reality where UCF would be able to get rid of Gus and not be on the hook for that $12 million or anything at all. And it would not, like I said, Gus is supposed to owe UCF money if he walks away. I'm trying to find the terms of the contract really quickly. It would not surprise me, given that UCF was about to ditch him, if that's not the case. If this is just a handshake, you go away.
Yeah, that
wouldn't surprise me. And I'm fine with that. I'm not sitting here like he better pass on money. Because again, the administration wanted him gone. The fan base wanted him gone. This is what everyone wanted to see happen.
Yeah, and it makes me like, I do wonder now how quickly they have their next head coach. I think, I don't know, I assume we would get something official from UCF soon and they'll do the whole national search beginning immediately thing. But they've known this for a while. They've surely been building out some targets and, backdoor or what is it, back channel conversations. Yeah. But we'll see. Like, I don't know. Signing day is Wednesday. And like you just said, like, this recruiting class is probably going to be it's going to be a wash given this situation, and they're committed to play for Gus and for this coaching staff, but it is like it's just a sacrifice that comes with it to move on and start fresh, and we'll see what the next era consists of. I don't really know. I don't know. I don't even know who I can tell you is my number one choice, but there are some guys out there, and we'll see what they come up with. But I'm very excited to now dive into kind of that speculation and see what happens, because
Gus Malzahn has saved the Pegasus podcast from having to do a whole lot. I mean, we've been having, it should not come to a surprise to anyone that listens, that we've been having constant conversations over the last couple of weeks of, if Gus doesn't leave, how the hell are we going to do this offseason? Because I don't ever want to lie to you guys. I don't want to do a podcast where we pretend things are better than they are, but we also understood that, Daryl Mack
posted the Homer Simpson gif, where he's going into the bushes. It's Homer Simpson coming out of the bushes. So,
Marlon Williams tweeted, "Thank you, laughing emoji, laughing emoji, laughing emoji. I'm so damn happy. Goodbye," with 4 exclamation points. But okay, yeah. But yeah, we didn't want to do a whole off season if things are fine and we're trying to figure out how to balance with. But guys, things are really bad, and now we get to have a fun off season of UCF's new coaches. Now the caveat is, will Terry Mahadra make a hire that isn't insane? And that is to be seen. I can see it. I can see it behind my eyes now, like UCF head coach Dan Mullen, UCF head coach Jimbo Fisher, just someone crazy. But no, I agree with you that. And as far as when the coach needs to be in place, signing day is Wednesday. I think you absolutely have to have a coach hired before signing day. I don't know how they can go through signing day without a staff. So I think this is something we're probably going to see in the next few days here, and probably something this is probably not the last emergency podcast.
You're going to be hearing from us a lot this week.
In the next few days. I don't think it's any secret that the fan base loves John Sumrall. The issue is that right now the only other Power 4 head coach opening is UNC, and John Sumrall's Tulane's head coach, and he was at Troy before that. He's one of those guys who he's kind of the anti-Gus. It hasn't been started at the top and sort of has had all success and then failures. He's just a guy who's been at a lot of schools where he didn't necessarily have the most resources and just his one big, and he moved from Troy to Tulane and did the exact same thing there. And he's a hot commodity. He's believed to be one of UNC's top choices, if not UNC's top choice. Now, I thought what was prohibitive there, if UCF and UNC went head to head on a head coach, would be the money, because UCF would be strapped with that buyout. UCF now has all the money to spend here. UNC is not some super heavy spending team when it comes to their football program. So if they were to go head to head for him, I could see UCF winning that. That'll be interesting to kind of see which of those jobs is perceived as better. Yeah. But again, let me just say on top of all of that, I don't know if Sumrall is UCF's top choice or whatever. He's the guy everyone's been looking at this offseason or this season, is he's the G5 guy to, rise up and get that next T4 job. So we'll see. There's lots of interesting hires out there.
Yeah. I mean, there's also, so we're recording this, obviously it's Saturday afternoon. We just watched Ohio State lose to Michigan again, and presumably Ryan Day could be fired. And so that's that is a big opening that will potentially come open. I don't know if they'll do it. They won't do it now. I wouldn't think.
No, I think Ryan Day, we'll see, but I don't think so.
I think UCF will obviously make their move well before that news even drops, because Ohio State's still going to go to the playoff. But
Can I just say I got a funny reply on Twitter. I was live tweeting the press conference after the game last night, and I tweeted, Malzahn is asked if he's concerned about his job security. Replies, quote, "I'm concerned how to make this team better." And Joshua Clark on Twitter just replied to me, he figured out exactly how to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing that everybody was talking about last night. Is like, he does he not realize that there is one thing you can do to make this program better? That's leave, and he did it. So credit to him.
Yeah, huge credit. I mean, I'm serious. We'd gotten to a bad place, and I want to say, and this is the less popular part to say, I was talking with you about this earlier, is that I feel bad for Gus for an extent. You've all just left. I said that, and everyone's left the podcast, because this wasn't some situation where it was even a Frost or I think Heupel's a better example here of clearly the plan was always do well at UCF and get a better job. I believe that Gus really wanted this to work and really believed that he had the ability to turn UCF into a powerhouse. And I believe he meant it what he said. And you've said this a million times. I don't want to steal your line from you, Bailey, but you've always said how I'm crediting you immediately, but how Gus always in that opening presser, he says, I always felt about UCF, if the right guy stayed here and built it, it could be something. And what's become clear over the last few years is Gus isn't the right guy. Yeah. I feel bad for him because I don't believe this was malicious. I don't believe this was a Tuberville at Cincinnati where he was checked out. I think he really, really wanted this to work. I think the sport has largely just passed him by. Yeah. I don't think he's the right personality to be a head coach for a major college football program in 2024. I think, like Chip Kelly at Ohio State, this role will suit him much better. That's just where things are at. And this, I don't know how we're going to define this era as the years go by. It's probably going to be defined a little bit by what comes next. I don't know what the lasting legacy of the Gus era is. You could argue he showed UCF how to recruit at a high level, but they never did anything with it. So go ahead.
Someone just pointed this out. It says Mike Norvell is the greatest coach in UCF history. He's given UCF a lot.
Oh my God,
he blew every lead he ever had as Memphis' head coach against UCF, and has now done this.
Yeah, Mike Norvell has
Credit
handed
to him.
UCF 2 conference titles and removed a coach who may not have left on his own or would have cost UCF a significant amount of money, to get rid of. Can you tell I just talk faster and faster, the more excited I get? I'm working on that, guys, I swear, after 4 years of podcasting, whatever we're at. But yeah, this is huge. I never imagined they'd get out of this without having to pay the buyout. Now, I don't know. The one thing I'm curious about, and we'll see if Malzahn does a press conference, if he drops a statement, is that I don't see it. I mean, you got to move quick. I don't see a reality where it gets to Wednesday, they don't have a head coach. You cannot do signing day without getting a head coach in place.
Yeah, I'm confused. I'm just kind of like, I'm waiting to see. I don't know if this is anything different, but Matt Murchell from the Orlando Sentinel said, yes, there's going to be UCF coaching news coming soon. Stay tuned. I don't know if he's just talking about
an official announcement.
Or if they've moved that quickly where they have a coach in place.
But might age badly. I would be super surprised if they somehow have a coach in place already.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. I can't believe we were sitting here watching the games today, obviously, and we were thinking this could happen. And as stuff started to like trickle out there, we're like, all right, kind of just wanting it to be today for personal reasons. Cause obviously I cover the Bucks as part of one of my other jobs.
Yeah.
And I have the game to cover tomorrow. And we're like, I just want to get this podcast done. I want to get the news out there. And it happened. Like I had said that to you probably 5 minutes ago. And then Thamel came out with his tweet and we're like, all right, let's do the podcast. So I don't know. It is very good news for us. And
this worked out for everyone.
We'll see what happens.
Way. I mean, this is just, Gus can save face, and it's not that UCF fired him or he's not being forced to retirement. He keeps to keep coaching, and UCF doesn't have to pay that buyout and gets to change the administration. And I got to tell you, all right, we've solved the Gus problem. Hooray. He's gone. Rejoice, whatever. This is a make or break moment for Terry Malzahn tenure as UCF's athletic director, because listen, let's just call it what it is. He screwed up the first coaching hire. I am not going to sit here and berate him for that because Gus was the obvious pick at that time, but it still didn't work out. It's not the only hire that hasn't worked out for athletics right now. And this is a huge, huge make or break moment of show you can find the right guy for this job. Show that you're not going to get enamored with a big name that doesn't make sense. Show you're not going to go after someone who, like Gus, had all his success in a situation that's nothing like UCF. Because to me, that was the crux of the issue at the end of the day, was just, what does being the head coach of Auburn have to do with being the head coach at UCF? Just not the same thing. And we heard anecdotal stories over the years of Gus being, especially early on, kind of surprised by some of the differences between being an SEC head coach and being at the time a G5 head coach. You need someone who knows this world, who knows how to navigate a team and a roster and a program where you are not top dog in your league, where you do not have the resources of everyone on your schedule and you have to find a way to overcome that. That's who you need. So can Terry Malzahn do that and overcome the whole winning the press conference? Because Gus won the hell out of the press conference when he got hired. Best opening press conference ever. Didn't result in anything meaningful in 4 years.
We've already got some decomits. We got
Chasen Brown.
4-star OT, Chasen Brown has decommitted. John Walker just tweeted 2 eyeball emojis. So I don't know. Yeah,
you got guys. I mean, I just want to be clear, because especially if this is the first coaching change that UCF has done in the portal and NIL era, say goodbye to the UCF football team right now. Say goodbye to the commits in the class. Say goodbye to the players on the roster. When coaches leave now, we see dramatic roster turnover. I mean, I don't think we'll see, but there's a real chance that the guys taking the field for UCF next year, you're not going to know any of the names right now.
And depending, go ahead.
No, please go.
I'll say, and depending on who they hire, the flip side of that is we'll see them hire a new coach. And if it's a coach from another school who has, players that, whether it's a head coach from another school or a coordinator, whatever it is, and he has some relationships with players at that school that want to follow him, we may see, some transfers from the new coach's school.
Indiana, who has had no success as a football program, they hired James Madison's head coach to be their coach this year. He took a huge chunk of James Madison's roster with him. Indiana is now 10-1 and may play for the Big 12 title, depending on what happens in the Penn State game. So I know it sucks. Like, if John Walker transfers, which feels on the table, that's going to suck. Like, seeing names that you like suck. But all I'd say to that is, one, that's just the reality. That's what happens when you lose a coach in modern college football. And the second thing I'll say to that is, do you want UCF to continue on the path it's on? I mean, it's at the end of the day, the problem with this roster is they don't have good enough players. And there's going to be losses. Some of them are going to suck. Young guys who we had a lot of hope for, but this just This is part of the process. And the bright side is if you get a staff in quick, like I seriously, like they hired Josh Heupel. Was it even 72 hours after Frost had
so
stepped
Frost
down?
left obviously on the Saturday of the AAC championship game. I think they had hired Heupel by Monday.
Yeah,
maybe Tuesday.
Yeah, like I actually do think that we need to be having the press conference with this new coach at the latest on Tuesday because he needs to get to work on this class and on the roster. And if you're saying, oh, you can't rush this stuff, oh yes, you can, and that's how all the
you have to.
All the schools do it. And again, this has been a reality for behind the scenes. I mean, close to a month now of the UCF's administration understanding a change may be necessary. I can't imagine they have not at least done a significant chunk of due diligence on if that happens, who are the options. I don't believe that right now Terry is sitting in his office going,
oh, now who?
Dang, I guess I better think about it. Like I think those conversations have been happening. So hopefully we'll get some news within the next couple of days here, and we will do many more emergency podcasts. But
my fear, what's kind of almost a fear now, is that we get this podcast out to you, and then we get news almost too quickly, and then all of what we just said kind of just falls by the wayside. Doesn't matter.
But that's the cost of doing business. We will just keep doing these freaking podcasts as long as we have to. Oh, really quickly, I have one more thing to say, and then we're going to get out of there so we can post this and you can all listen to it. All of you already, I'm sure, on Twitter, I haven't checked, but I'm sure many of you are already going, thank God Scott Frost can come back to UCF. I'll talk about this more on other podcasts, but that is not a serious notion. That's not something that's going to be considered. It's not something that should be considered. And the thing you have to understand about Scott Frost, if you're saying, well, why he was good here, is that 2017 college football and the UCF he succeeded at has virtually nothing in common with this current UCF team. There was no such thing as NIL. There was no such thing as the transfer portal. There was no such thing as roster management year to year. It was all about just old school. 25% of your roster graduates and you bring a new 25%. And also it was a different league. UCF was in the AAC. They were top dog. They had the resources to outperform their competition. Frost did a great job here. I'm not trying to discredit that, but I'm saying that we've seen him in modern college football at Nebraska and it was a mess. I don't understand.
He's also been out of it for 2 years now?
Yes. UCF is a way too valuable of a job. And I'm curious to see, as people start to report now, how valuable of a job, way too valuable of a job to go to a coach who has no prospects in modern college football. I'm sorry. I love Frost and I'm not trying to discredit what he did. That's just the reality.
For me, what it is you can't get a guy who's now been, I know he was your coach 7 years ago, but pulling him off of, the analyst staff with the Rams, I think is where he is now, before he even gets back in college football as a coordinator, as a coach, in any way. It's just, I don't know. It does not sit. You can't do that. It does not work that way. And also there's the fact that this entire administration is different than the one that had a relationship with him before.
There's no crossover there. All the way up to the president, it's new. And maybe we can look into, that'll be part of our job here now, is to look at who are some of Mahaja's relationships, who are some of Cartwright's relationships, and go from there. Daryl Mack tweeted a photo of Mackenzie Milton and said, OC, QB coach, I don't give a damn if you bring him back as the damn equipment manager. Bring this man home.
I appreciate the sentiment, but I think it's funny that, so what is he? He's like an analyst at Tennessee right now. I think if you bring him back as the equipment manager, I know he's just trying to get it back to UCF, but that's your friend. DJ, I don't know if you want to.
That's actually another interesting thing too, since this isn't a firing, is that I assume that UCF's assistant coaches, Addison, Tim Harris, will remain in place for these next couple of days and try to talk some of the recruits off the ledge. And a new staff might decide to keep some. It's UCF's entire staff was not horrible. I don't know if there will be anyone who will return, but I don't know if Darren Henshaw wants to stay on as quarterbacks coach. I think a new coach should keep him. I think Darren Henshaw's done a very good job. I think someone like Trovon Reed is probably gone because the relationship with Gus, but there are guys there worth trying to hold on to. So
this is from The Athletic, from Chris Vanini, just confirming it, and then says the UCF job was one many in the industry had their eyes on opening.
That stuff always annoys me because, where was the reporting on that?
Yeah.
Really, everyone and I love Chris Vanini. I don't want that to come across as shade at all. It's just, I always laugh because we all knew that. You knew that if you were listening to this, but it's one of those things everyone's afraid to say it. But Anything else, or do we want to get out of here and get this posted?
I could talk about this. I can just keep continuing to talk about this and read more tweets that pop up, but I guess we should probably get out and just have everybody listen to this, and you may hear from us again pretty shortly. I don't know
even
how
today.
soon.
We'll just have to see.
Yeah. I guess, Are we done? You done?
I am done.
Cool.
You know who else is done?
Gus
Malzahn. All right.
He is gone. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us. You can follow us on Twitter at BaileyJAdams22, at @ByCA Simmons, at Night Sports Now, and at Pegasus Podcast. Thank you guys so much for being with us on this emergency edition of the Pegasus Podcast. We will talk to you soon.
Bye, Gus Malzahn.